What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing Zach LaVine's recent interview with Joe Cowley, talking about being a max player. And this was a lot of things came to light in this brief interview. We'll also be previewing the Bulls game against the Denver Nuggets. All that right after this. All right, so I want to start off with Zach LaVine's interview with Joe Cowley, and I want to piggyback. So this is how I ended my last video, right? And it just so happened I posted this video probably a few hours before this interview went live, so I had no idea this was going to be in it. But I talked in my last video about at some point we need to have a conversation about Zach LaVine's improved defense, right? And in this interview, Zach talks about becoming a max player, how that's going to affect the team. It's a pretty good article from Joe Cowley. But one of the key things that stood out in this is Zach LaVine flat out, when he was criticized by Cowley about his defense, he asked, well, how's my rating now? And so I didn't even know this. Like I said, I was going to do some research before I got into the video with Zach LaVine's defense. So this all makes sense and everything happens for a reason, right? Zach LaVine last year, within the first 14 games of the season, his defensive rating was 415th overall and 211th amongst NBA starters. Now, this season, 15 games into the season, he has a 103.4 defensive rating. He's 79th among starting players in the NBA and in the top 200 overall in the NBA. Come on, man. Listen, I keep telling you or saying that everything isn't always going to show up in the stat line, right? And that's Zach LaVine's improved defense. Yes, it shows up in some ways, but like it's all in watching the actual game. His awareness out there, he's paying more attention on defense. He's more engaged on defense. And this is what's going to help. This is what is helping the team. This is also what's going to help him ascend to the places that he wants to be. He has to be a two-way player. And I love that Joe Cowley kind of pressed him on that, right? And saying that, he talked about how he criticized Zach LaVine's potential as a max player because how has that worked for teams to not have a two-way off guard being a max player, and how that's really harping teams. And then again, this is not to say that Zach LaVine has fixed every hole he needs to on defense. He hasn't, right? He's improved though. And this is the improvement that you have to improve to get to a better place. And he's seeing the results in the wins of the team by improving on that defense. Listen, there's a lot of things that we can say about Zach LaVine's game so far this season. He's forced it, everything else. And those critiques are valid in several different ways. Could it be the thumb? Because before the thumb, it seemed like again, even some after the thumb. I'm not blaming everything strictly on the thumb injury, but coming into the start of this game, Zach LaVine, yes, he got off to really slow first quarters, but it was more so because he wanted to make sure he was getting his team involved. But Zach LaVine was seemingly like he could take over those games at any point in time scoring wise. So, we'll continue to see improvement, but it's good that Zach has the awareness to know for him to validate that max level extension, he has to continue to improve his game. Even in the conversation, like I like that Joe pressed him. I like that he was firm in his answers back to Joe, and that, he didn't really back down, talking about when Joe asked him, well, why did it take so long to improve? Basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I know that's not exactly the way he worded it, but Zach LaVine coming back with, look, nothing happens overnight. I've been putting in work. And I love that he doesn't back down from it. As we continue into the season, as we get closer to Zach LaVine's contract extension and what that means for the Bulls, his contract extension can range anywhere between $210 million to, I believe, $230 million. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And that's at $20 million is a huge range, right? Also, when you look at the Bulls and the how many contracts they added over the course of this season, and how they still have some things to improve, right? How the Bulls maneuver in this, Zach has to be great. He has to be more than what he has been before, and he's tracking that way. Zach LaVine is playing great this season. I know it's easy as Bulls fans, especially how closely we watch it, to really sit back and just pick out the bad things sometimes. But Zach LaVine is playing amazing. He's playing great. Again, that doesn't mean he doesn't have holes in this game. That doesn't mean he doesn't have things to improve on. He absolutely does. But when you look at, like, for example, last season, let's just compare some of the stats from last season. We're only 15 games in this season. He played 58 games last season. But one of the things, he had 50% field goal percentage last year. He's at 49.1, right? So he's not that far off of it. His 3-point percentage last year was about basically 42%. It was 41.9. He's 40% so far this season. We knew that some of these stats were going to go down, right? Because of him just being on a better team. But when you really look at it, his percentages have dropped some. That's probably because of the thumb, if we're giving him the some credit for that. But his points per game really isn't that much of a difference. He averaged 27.4 points per game last season. He's at 26.2, which makes sense considering, especially when you look at the way that DeMar DeRozan's been playing for us and everything like that. Now, again, this is not to say that Zach LaVine is a perfect player. This is not to say that, you know, he doesn't still need to improve. That's not even to say that, you know, that I necessarily think he should get the max contract. I do think he's playing into that. But you know, even his rebounds. He's upped his rebound almost 1 rebound per game. His assists are down, but that makes sense again, considering the passers he's playing with this season. Lonzo Ball being there, Alex Caruso as well. Steals have dropped some as well. But overall, we're looking at a much improved player in Zach LaVine so far this season, and we knew that. But this has to be sustained. This can't just be this flash in the pan this one season because of it's a contract year. And granted, the way that Zach LaVine has improved every season since he's been here in Chicago, I do trust that it's going to continue that way. Absolutely. But, you know, we just have to be honest. And like I said, I always like to be honest with the way that I critique and talk about the Chicago Bulls roster. But this was a really solid interview to read. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. I know Joe Cowley is really, he started off this season with that Patrick Williams article that I fucking hated, and a lot of us did because of the way that he talked about Pat. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, Pat came out and didn't play as great because of the injury. Now he's out for the season, so we'll have to push that to next year. But next up, the Bulls matchup against Denver Nuggets tonight. This is going to be a tough one. When you look at just, again, the Nuggets are basically a lot like Paul George was. Jokic leads the Nuggets in every stat but blocks per game. He's the leader in points. He's the leader in rebounds. He's the leader in assists. He's the leader in steals. It all starts with what we can do with Jokic. And the thing is Jokic going to have a big night? Probably, right? Probably. Jokic should very well go for 30 or 40 points tonight. I think I said that again against reaching matchup against the Bulls, and then the Bulls end up playing pretty good defense. But so we'll see how they do. But really, I think it's going to come down to containing everything but Jokic. And kind of letting Jokic do his thing offensively, at least. He's probably still. We'll see how the Bulls, you know, handle him and make the game uncomfortable for him. What that shooting percentage is like so far this season. But Jokic is having a great season, a great start to his season. The Nuggets, I believe, are at 9-6. So, you know, not too far above 500 there, but we know how dangerous they are as a team. We expect them to wake up at some point. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be out this game. He's going to be out for a while with the way that, you know, they kind of worded it, out for the foreseeable future. Now, I'm recording this early. With my luck, 10 o'clock this morning, they'll say, oh, Michael Porter Jr. is coming back. And it'll completely change the way that the Bulls have to play this. But it's really going to be important as well, not letting Aaron Gordon go off. You know, having two players in that front court that have the potential to go off is going to be interesting to see. Again, like it has been, the stat for us is seeing what we do rebounding wise. Really, when you look at it, the key to the Bulls games being easier or harder on them really depends on how much the other team can affect and eat off the fact that the Bulls aren't the best offensive rebounding team. I expect Denver to be able to be in that one pretty well. That's just my personal opinion. I think that Denver is going to rebound pretty well against us. And play us tough on that. And how the Bulls respond to that is going to be key for a lot of the things on how this game ends up working out for us. Just looking at it, Denver Nuggets, number 1 in defensive rebounding. Again, we've already talked about how low the Bulls rank on offensive rebounding. The Bulls are 29th in offensive rebounding. So we expect the Denver Nuggets to have a huge game rebounding against us tonight. Denver Nuggets are 16th with offensive rebounding. Whereas, you know, the Bulls, I believe, rank higher than that on defense. Yeah, the Bulls are 15th with defensive rebounding. So how that rebounding battle is, again, going to be the battle as it is for most NBA games, right? This isn't anything weird. It's just that the Bulls rank so low offensive rebounding wise that, you know, it's easy for that to be a turning point for a lot of teams if they're able to make us pay on the defensive end and they get more possessions. Really, when it comes to the Chicago Bulls, a lot of things depend on how our shots are falling. Again, records aside, I don't expect this to be a super easy game for the Bulls at all. I think this is going to be one that it's going to be a tough game. It can get away from the Bulls if they do this whole thing again where they blow leads or they have periods in time where they just can't score and allow Denver to get out to a big lead early and get that momentum started, especially with being on the road. This game can be a very hard game for the Chicago Bulls. But everything remains to be seen. The Bulls coming off a loss, I expect them to battle back hard, in my opinion, and then come out of here with some chips on their shoulder, as that's the theme of this season. But let me know down below what you guys think about this game upcoming against the Denver Nuggets. How big of a game do you think Jokic is going to have? Let me know down below how many points, how many rebounds you think Jokic is going to have tonight. Let me know that down below. Like I like to end every video on. Well, before we get into that, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for all the support. Continuing. I think this week we started off this week, I think at like sub 1,500 subscribers. We're at like 1,630 now, so we've had a really good week. We'll continue growth as we have every week. I thank you guys so much for just joining the ride. And we did have that poll that you guys did request for me to do more live streams after games. I will be able to do that for sure, more once the Bulls are back out east, but I'm pretty sure tonight I'll be able to do a quick live stream after this game ends. Let's see how bad the Bulls piss me off. But that's it. Like I like to end every video on, go Bulls. I love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.